This is your AP Government video on voting rights. Throughout the United States and throughout our history, we have had a very troubling relationship with voting rights. Certainly when the country first started, we restricted a lot of people from voting. So this is a list of all of the ways that we have had to go back and give people voting rights. So at the first part of our country, the late 1700s and early 1900s, voter turnout was very high in elections. Part of that is because so few people had the right to vote at that time. The other problem is that we didn't have a lot of security measures like we do today. So it was very easy for people to vote multiple times. In fact, people would say vote early, vote often. And there's no way for us to check that a very large turnout for voters, let's say 85%, was because of it was true turnout or because people were paying others to vote multiple times. We used to have restrictions on which types of religion could vote. And this is eventually eliminated individually by the states. So one by one, they changed their state voting requirements and registration forms to allow people of any religion to vote. The second thing that is eliminated is property. So you used to have to be a property owner, and it used to be that you had to have a significant amount of property. They end up lowering the property requirement and then get rid of it altogether. And again, this is done individually by states, one at a time. We eliminate race and national origin discrimination by the 15th Amendment. This is one of the amendments that is passed after the Civil War. Sex and gender discrimination is banned by the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. We ban income discrimination in the 24th Amendment. This basically bans poll taxes, which would require you to pay a fee in order to vote. That, of course, limited people who were low income from being able to afford that fee. The Voting Rights Act, which was one of the major pieces of legislation during the Civil Rights Movement, banned literacy tests and other essay-type tests in order to get a voter registration card. And then the 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18. So now any legal adult, 18-year-old and older, has the right to vote. So there are some current qualifications. You obviously have to abide by all of these qualifications in order to be able to vote in any election. You do have to be a citizen of the United States, and you do have to be a resident of the state and the districts that you are voting from. So you cannot vote in multiple locations. So if you own multiple properties, every time you buy a property, you have to tell the government which one is your primary residence. That is the only residence that you can vote in or register to vote in. And if you change your residency, then you have to kind of cancel one voter registration in order to create another. You have to be 18 on the day of the election. And most states require that you do this registration process. North Dakota is the only state currently that does not require registration. North Dakota automatically registers all of the citizens of their state when they turn 18. So you would automatically get a voter card. Every other state, including our state, requires that you fill out this registration form. And states, depending on which state you're in, you either have to do it 30 to 60 days before the election. So most of the time you can do it online. For Arizona, it is servicearizona.com, which is our DMV's website, and there is a voter registration link there. That is the same link that you can use if you want to change your party affiliation, change your address, and things like that. So you can kind of re-update your registration as you see fit. Now, there are ways that you can lose your voting rights as well. So just because you turn 18 and you register to vote, some states get rid of your registration if you don't use it. So if you don't vote for, let's say, 2 years, then they scrub you from the voter rolls and you would have to re-register the next time you wanted to vote. For some states, that is a 4-year requirement. So you would have to vote at least once every 4 years to keep your registration fresh. You can also lose your voting rights by becoming a convicted felon. Most states have restrictions on people who are incarcerated for felonies. Some states restrict only certain felonies and not others. And some states allow felons, once they're out of jail, they have paid their debt to society and paid off all their restitution, allow them to get their voting rights back. but that again depends on which state you live in. You can also lose your voting rights if you are adjudicated mentally incompetent. So if you go to court, but the court finds that you are mentally unfit to stand trial, then you also will lose your voting rights.